Yes, sir, too. So, for today's Quick Tick Tuesdays, we got subwoofer box build planning. I might need to go a little bit more in depth into this than I usually do for the Quick Tick Tuesdays. So, this might be a series. I'm gonna try to limit it to a 2-part series, but 3-part at the most. So, in the planning, you got multiple type of vehicles. You got one, which is the SUV / hatch / barn door type, which, you know, the barn door type or the type that open in the middle. You got the hatch type, the type that opens and lifts up. Those a little bit easier because, like I said, it's a big wide open space, and 90% of the time most people are not going to use anywhere close to the amount of space that you got there. Now, I said most of the time. Usually if they are, they're going to take it to somebody, or they already got kind of specific skills that it takes to do that. But for the average person that just got a pair of subs and need to build a box, it's simple. Like I say, for the barn door type, this is what you got. Okay, and what you'll want to do, first of all, is check the available space that you got. And in order to do that, you want to measure from side to side and from top to bottom. So as I said, in this big, super big van, we got a whole bunch of space, so never really have to worry about that until you go to building a wall or mega extreme build. So like I said, you want to measure in your cargo area or whatever space that you plan on using for your build. Measure from side to side. Also, you want to measure front to back, your available space, and also from top to bottom. That's the first step in planning your subwoofer box build, is finding out the amount of available space that you got to build in. Now, as I said, in SUVs, vans, those hatchback, those type of builds is pretty easy because you always got usually more space than is needed. Yes, sir, too. When it becomes a little bit difficult is when you got limited space. Yes, sir. And so I'll give you a quick rundown before I pop the trunk and let you see what actually is going on. I know a lot of people, a lot of my new subscribers haven't really seen the trunk part of my build. So with these subs, the Ascendant Audio Chaos 12s, yes sir, check them out. They don't got them anymore, but with these subs, they required between 2 to 2.5 cubes of airspace per sub, which is 5 cubes total. A little bit over 5 cubes after you check for displacement and things like that. But that's not on this video. On this video, we're just checking for available space. The first step. Okay, so like I said, 5 cubes. It's a nice size trunk, but it's not a huge trunk, and we know that. So we did our measurements, and this trunk had a lot more room than we needed, but not a lot of space to get the box in there. So we had to do our measurements top to bottom, side to side, front to back, like I showed you, to see how much available space we got. And so, in here, with the amount of space we have and the amount of entryway, which is how far the trunk actually opens to be able to get the box in. Because after you measure for trunk space, you also got to measure the amount of space you have to get the box in. So, that being said, let's get to it. I'll show you how I maximize my space. Yes, sir, let's get it. Okay. Now, there you go, Tube. As you can see, I have fully maximized all of the space available to me. As you can see down there, just barely enough space to put some supports. As you can see, it goes all the way back to the front. Alright, like I say, there's some more things we need to do, but for now we're just checking for available space. So how we do that is we measure from the front, our front farthest most point, keeping in mind obstructions, and that is 26. You see the box is 25, but we got 26. While we made the box at 25, we'll get to that later. Right now, as I said, we're just checking for available space. So we got 26 inches deep by, and as most people know, in most trunks, you got the wheel well. So you can't measure from the outside of the trunk to the outside of the trunk. Otherwise, your box won't fit behind the wheel well. So, getting as close as we can, keeping in mind that we do got a box still in there that we do not want to squeeze back out. Yes, sir, I say squeeze for a reason, and we'll cover that reason in the future parts of this video. Right now, we're just checking for available space. So, for our available space, from wheel well to wheel well, we have 37 inches. Okay, and our height, from top to bottom to those, you can't go to the top of the trunk because you gotta keep in mind all of the obstructions. That's why I say, you don't go from metal to metal, you go from obstruction to obstruction. Yes, a lot of times people make the mistake of building a box and they don't take into account all of the obstructions that you got. These are things that can't be removed. These are functioning parts of your trunk. Okay? So, also trunk releases. Also, as I said before, wheel wells. So, our top to bottom, from obstruction to obstruction, is 18 inches. As you can see, in our box build, we didn't use the full 18 inches, but that's what we got. So, for our specs, as you've seen, we got 18 inches high, by 26 inches deep, by 37. 18 by 26 by 37. Remember them numbers. Yes, sir, too. So we said we had 18 by 26 by 37. Them are our dimensions. So that's exactly how we do it, just like the signs. 18 by times 26 by times 37. And that's the number we get. 18 times 26 times 37, which are our dimensions, equal 17,316. We divide that by our magic number. Every builder should have this number memorized, 1728. That's the number you divided by to get your cubic feet. So, divided by 1728. Yes, sir. And that's what we got. 10 cubes. So total in our trunk, we got 10 cubes. Now that we know that, we get back to the business. So, with that being said, you would assume that you could just build a box like that, and that would fit, which is not technically true. Even though that is the amount of space that's in the trunk, unless you plan on building the box inside the trunk, that is not the available space you have for a box build. Because a box built at those dimensions will not fit in the trunk. And what I mean by that is, it physically won't fit in the trunk. Even though the dimensions say that it will, your trunk opening is not big enough to allow a box that big to go in. And this is where a lot of people build boxes, and once they get all of the dimensions put together, they get stuck here because they don't take into account the opening space that you got. So, as I said, 18 inches was the height. That's up and down. 26 inches was the depth, and 37 inches was the width. Now, the opening of our trunk is only roughly 20 inches by at its smallest point, $40. So, a box that's physically that big, you will not be able to squeeze in the trunk. And that's where a little bit more technicality comes in. But we'll get to that on part 2. Yes, sir, you through with your guy with the Quick Tip Tuesdays box build planning.
A word unto the wise is enough.